Hello, hi class or classes. I have a book and it's called The Vanishing Coin, and it is for an older student. It is primarily, I would say, third and fourth grade, second grade also. Not a lot of pictures, so you got to be a big kid to want to look at this book because there won't be a lot of pictures at all. But it's a really fun book, and a lot of you might be able to relate to the student in this book. So it takes place in a school, so it's kind of fun to read, especially now that we're not in school. So the writer is Kate Egan, and it's with the help of a magician named Mike Lane, and it is illustrated by Eric Wight. Okay, so there you go. All right, and I'm going to read a chapter every time I read, and so this is how I'm going to do it chapter by chapter because I'm not going to do two chapters. That's just too long. So you end up pausing it. And you can, like I said, you can pause this book anytime during this chapter. That's a great thing about being home and listening to me. You can't pause me at school, but you can pause me all day long. Anytime you want a snack, you can do that. That's a great thing. So, chapter 1, In Trouble Again. Okay? So, there he is. Um, his name is Mike. So it's about a boy named Mike, and he's in fourth grade, and he's thinking things are going to be different, maybe, but things are not as different as he had hoped for this school year. And it's called Chapter 1. This is Chapter 1, and it's called In Trouble Again. All right. 9-year-old Mike Weiss slumped in a hard seat outside the principal's office. Fourth grade was supposed to be a fresh start, but he was right back where he always was. Every year since kindergarten, at least once a week in trouble. He wasn't a bad kid, and he wasn't mean. He didn't hurt anyone. He just couldn't sit still. Sometimes he did things without meaning to. When he had gotten up and walked around during the math tests, he really wasn't looking at anyone's paper. He just had to move. But that was against the rules, and he had ignored his teacher's warnings. So here he was. Over the summer, he had been working on ways to cope. Strategies, his parents called them. And strategies are things that you work on that will help you to change things you might want to change. You put them in place by using these strategies, and it's like basically plans. Okay? So, over the summer, he had been working on ways to cope. Strategies, his parents called them. And sometimes they worked, and sometimes they didn't. It looked like the strategies weren't going to change things at school, though. It just wasn't fair. The principal was on the phone, behind the closed door. Any minute the door would fly open and the same routine, the same old thing, would start all over again. Calling his parents, talking about consequences, making a plan. Mike kicked the bottom of his seat and until Miss Warren, the secretary, glanced up. Then he stared at the floor. There was a bare spot in the rug beneath his feet. Was he the one who had worn it so thin? Miss Warren had a jar of candy on her desk. Mike wasn't supposed to eat sugar, but one little piece couldn't hurt, right? He got up and he helped himself to a chocolate kiss. It made him feel a little better, and Miss Warren never minded. She usually left the discipline to the principal. Who's your teacher this year, Mike? She asked kindly. Mrs. Canfield, he answered. She seems nice. He really meant it, too. Until a few minutes ago, he thought that maybe Miss Canfield would understand him. "You're going to love her," said Miss Warren. She started putting flyers into the teachers' mailboxes. "She just needs to get to know you," she added. Mrs. Warren knew all about Mike's problems. She had a son just like him, she said, right down to the brown eyes and the messy hair. Some can some first graders walked in with attendance sheet, stared at him like he was a criminal, though. And that was bad enough. But that wasn't bad enough. Then Mike heard a class coming down the hall. One of the other fourth grade teachers was at the front of the line reminding the kids to be quiet as they made their way to the art room. Before they passed, Mike looked behind a file cabinet. He ducked behind a file cabinet in the office, but it was too late. "Mike!" a girl called, and her ponytail bounced with her. "Hey, Nora," Mike muttered. Her family recently moved next door to his, and she was just his age, just his luck. "Going homesick?" Nora asked. She would never be in the office for any other reason. Nora was gifted, his mom had told him. She needed special classes and extra challenging homework. And that's another illustration. Like I said, it's not too many that you will see. So she needed special classes and extra challenging homework. She could handle sitting quietly at a desk. Mike didn't think Nora seemed any different from most kids. She was friendly and she liked to play foursquare. He might have liked her a little more if he had not known that she was good at everything she tried. They definitely didn't have that in common. "Not exactly sick," he said. It was hard to explain. Luckily, Nora's teacher was moving her along. "See you after school," she said, waving goodbye. Mike looked around. He wasn't sure, trying to make sure no one heard that. It was still a new arrangement, and he had hoped it wouldn't last. He and Nora weren't really friends, but their parents were. They had hit it off from the day Nora's family moved in. It only took a couple of backyard barbecues before their mothers had cooked up a plan to help each other out after school. Both sets of parents had flexible schedules, but they couldn't always pick up their kids at 3 o'clock. So Nora came to Mike's house when her parents were busy, and Mike went to Nora's when his were. He was going there today, actually. Another fun afternoon of raw vegetables and no screen time at Nora's. The principal's door was still closed. Miss Warren was making a fresh pot of coffee. Mike wondered what his mom had told Nora's mom. If Nora was gifted, what was he? What was the opposite? The idea made him so mad that he didn't notice the shadow in the office doorway. It still wasn't the principal. It was much worse. Jackson Jacobs. Mike's enemy since birth was shaking his head. "Not again," Jackson said. "It's only the first week of school, man. You're in trouble already?" Just the next page. We all know that kid in school, don't we? Last year, Jackson had been in Mike's class. Mike hadn't seen him all summer, even though they lived in the same neighborhood. It looked like Jackson had grown about a foot at camp. He always knew how to get under Mike's skin. "Hey, Where were you at soccer practice? And Jackson asked for once. And that's, and Jackson, we lost a little light there. And Jackson asked for once. Hey, where were you at soccer practice? Jackson asked. For once he waited to hear what Mike had to say. Mike gulped. I'm not playing this year, he said. Not playing? Said Jackson, amazed. But you've always played. Charlie and Zach are playing. I saw them on the field, Mike's best friends. Charlie and Zach had already given him a hard time. They were on the same team this year with marching orders. With matching orange jerseys, number 12 and 13. I need to focus on my schoolwork, Mike said, and soccer is a big commitment. Is that what your parents said? Asked Jackson. So it has nothing to do with the way you never got a goal, right? He punched Mike playfully on the arm. What's wrong with you, big guy? Skipping soccer is never going to help your schoolwork. It'll take a lot more than that. Jackson headed toward the boys' bathroom, laughing like it was the funniest thing he had ever heard. And, of course, that's when the principal's phone call finally ended. Mike saw the doorknob turning and Miss Scott's sensible shoes marching toward him. He sat up straight and tried to smile. Welcome back, she said, waving him into her office like he was an old friend. He sat down in his usual place in front of her desk, and she sat down in her huge seat. He felt like he was back in preschool. Mrs. Scott sighed deeply. I don't know what to say, Mike, she began. It's too early in the year for this. Your mom said you made good progress over the summer. What's happened? I don't know, Mike said honestly. I was taking a test and I needed to get up. I wasn't cheating or anything. I was just moving. We need to find a way for you to succeed in school, Miss Scott explained. Not for the first time. You can't keep roaming around during tests or missing assignments or fooling around in class. You need to find a way to focus. What could Mike say? I know, he trailed off. I know. I'll need to call your parents, Miss Scott said. Mrs. Canfield and I meet with them we'll meet with them as soon as we can find a date. Mike's parents had already tried a million ways to keep him on task. As they said, they'd set alarms to go off whenever he had to start a new activity. They made him eat healthy food, get more rest. Nothing seemed to do the trick. They'd already tried everything. They're already trying, Mike said softly. I know they are, said Miss Scott, but I know you can do better. When he finally left the office, Mike tried to look out on the bright side. She hadn't said, I'm disappointed in you. She hadn't said, you need to concentrate, like he could just flip a switch. She was trying to say she believed in him, that he could really do it somehow. But mostly Mike had heard Jackson's words ringing in his ears. What's wrong with you? He couldn't play soccer. It was true. He couldn't sit still or read a long book or remember his math facts or get through a week of school without ending up in the office. What was wrong with him? Mike wondered. The answer was pretty simple. Everything, he thought. And the next chapter we'll read next time. I hope you enjoyed it.